Good morning. I guess it's time for another Hockey Nuts morning skate. It's been a couple days since I've done one of these. I was off yesterday, but my wife was too. And that coupled with the fact that I had to get a lot of my referee stuff finished up, or I wanted to get it all finished up yesterday. And that consumed a good chunk of my day, so I wasn't able to do a morning skate from the house yesterday, and I didn't end up going anywhere, so I couldn't do one from the road either. So we've got a couple days to catch up on, so let's get right into it. On Monday, I don't even know what the date was. The 17th, Monday the 17th, there were 4 games around the league. And let me just run down the scores real quick. The Rangers beat the Sharks in New York at 7-4. The Avalanche beat the Penguins 4-3. That was in Pittsburgh. The Red Wings crushed the Senators 5-1. And that was at the Joe. And then in the final game of the night, the Bruins beat the Jets 4-1. Now I watched about the second half of that game because Monday night I was playing hockey myself. The team that I play for had a game Monday night at 8 o'clock, but when we got off the ice, I only live a few minutes from the rink. I was able to catch the rest of the Bruins game after we got off the ice, and it was 2-1 Bruins when I started watching, and it was 2-1 till late in the third period when Brandon Carlo got a puck through from the point to go up 3-1, and that was his first NHL goal, so congratulations to him. It's good to see actually all these new rookies around the league getting their first NHL goals. First week of the season is always fun to see these guys experience that. But anyway, and then the tail end of the game, the Zdeno Chara got the empty netter to seal the win for the Bruins. So all in all, that was a pretty good game. The Bruins skated pretty hard. After the loss to Toronto in their second game, they needed to have a good effort, and they did come up with one. So that was a good night there. So other than that, I didn't see any of the other highlights or any of the other game action in the league on Monday night. Just because I watched the rest of the Bruins game, went home, and kind of relaxed the rest of the night. So, on to Tuesday night. That would be last night's games. There were, 13 games? 12 games around the league. 12 games around the league. So, if you're much of a hockey fan, you know that Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday are the big game nights. Those are the 3 nights of the week, typically, that you have a lot of games around the NHL. The other nights are kind of the fill-in nights. So Tuesday's another one of those big game nights. So there were 12 games last night. So we'll get it started. Now the first game, Devils beat the Ducks 2-1. Taylor Hall got his second goal of the season in that game. The next game, the Islanders hosted the Sharks and lost 3-2. And I did see brief highlights of that one. The Sharks held a lead late in the third and kind of just held on as the Islanders were throwing everything they had at them to try to tie the game up, and they weren't able to do so. In the next game, Capitals shut out the Avalanche 3-0. So the Capitals look like they're rounding up into form here pretty soon, which doesn't bode well for the other Eastern Conference teams. In another game, in fact, I was I wanted to watch this one, but I was still working on my referee stuff, and that really was the priority yesterday. I needed to get that stuff finished. But the Penguins and the Canadiens played a game in Montreal, and I was hoping to watch a bit of that one, but that didn't come to fruition just because I was too busy focused on getting all my online modules and my testing done for USA Hockey refereeing. So, but in that game, Montreal ended up shutting out Pittsburgh 4-0. It's a big truck right beside me. I gotta keep my eyes on. So, and with that being Montreal's first shutout of the year, I wanted to. Carey Price wasn't in net for that one, so. Oh, and back to the Washington game, the Capitals shutting out. They did honor. I did see that they honored Braden Holtby before that game for the great season he had last year, 48 wins, and the Vezina Trophy. So they honored him before the game last night and gave him the night off on top of that. Because I think it would have been a little weird to honor the goaltender before a game he was playing in. Because goaltenders are a lot like pitchers in baseball. If they're going to be the starter in net, or in the case of pitchers on the mound, people tend to leave them alone on the day of the game because they get pretty focused and they just don't like to be messed with. So it was nice that they were able to honor him and give him a scheduled day off at the same time. So in the next game, the Coyotes came all the way east to play Ottawa, and Ottawa beat them 7-4. Saw bits and pieces of that game. Ottawa jumped out to a lead pretty early in that game before I turned it to another game. I think it was 2-0 when I turned away from it. Looked like Ottawa was going to have that one in hand, and they in fact did. So 7-4 was the final in that one. Lightning hosted the Panthers and beat them 4-3. That was another game I was interested in seeing, but was unable to because I was too busy doing other things. But the Lightning ended up winning that one in a shootout, 4-3, and I believe the Lightning are now undefeated, 3-0 on the season, which is a scary thought because they're a favorite to win the East, and they're already jumping out to a hot start. So that is, pretty much as expected for them. The next game, the Predators hosted the Stars, but the Stars came out on top of that one, 2-1. Didn't watch any of that game, didn't see any of the highlights, so I don't have much to say about that one, other than the fact that it would have been a good game to watch if it would have been on a lighter schedule night. Predators and Stars are both two really good teams and are both projected to have really good seasons. Both are projected to make the playoffs fairly easily. The next game, the Wild beat the Kings 6-3. The Kings are now 0-3 on the season. And I predicted in the podcast, and Steve was pretty surprised when I said this, I predicted that the Kings were not going to make the playoffs this year, that they've taken a step back from years past. And so far, I know it's very early, it's only 3 games in, but so far I've been proven to not be too completely crazy on that one, because the Kings are now 0-3, and now Jonathan Quick is out with a long-term injury. It sounds like it's going to be quite a long time before he's back, from the reports I've been hearing this week. So yeah, the Kings are in trouble. right now. The next game, the Blackhawks hosted the Flyers, another good game, and the Blackhawks won that one 7-4. Didn't see any of it, but two fairly marquee teams, big market cities. Must have been a pretty good game to watch. There were a lot of good games last night. There really were. The next one, the Flames hosted the Sabres, and the Flames won that one 4-3 in overtime. So didn't see that one, but the Flames Flames and Sabres are both trying to establish themselves as playoff contenders. Both have missed the playoffs in recent years, and are both trying to claw their way back into it. So that was a good game. Apparently, it was a good game for both if it went to overtime. So. And the Blues and the Canucks played a game in Vancouver, and Vancouver won the game in overtime. That's the second game in a row that Vancouver has won in overtime, and I believe they are now 3-0 on the season, which is a complete surprise because Vancouver's not expected to do anything this year. Granted, they a couple of their wins have been against weaker teams, but St. Louis is no slouch of a team, so to see the Canucks win that one in overtime, when I saw the score of that one, I was pretty surprised. But it's good for them. Good for them to get off to a hot start because Vancouver's going to need every point they can get this year in that tough Western Conference. And in the final game, it wasn't the final game of the night, but it was the one I saw the most of. It was the Carolina Hurricanes and the Edmonton Oilers. Number one, because the Hurricanes are the local team, of course, in this area, and the Oilers are my favorite team out west, just because of the talent that they have and that they're just a fun team to watch. So, and it was a new, it was a game that was on TV at my house because of the local connection there, and I was able to watch the entire game. And in fact, I watched it while working on my refereeing stuff, so I wasn't 100% paying attention, but it was on the entire time I was sitting there working on my stuff, and I paid attention. But it was a disappointing night for Carolina. Not disappointing if you're an Edmonton fan. Edmonton jumped out to a 3-0 lead. I think it was 2-0 after one, and then early in the second period, they scored their third goal, and then Carolina spent the rest of the game just clawing their way back. And they almost got it. I mean, they brought it to 3-2 with about 10 or so minutes left in the third. They made it 3-2, but they just weren't able to get that equalizer. They threw everything they had at Edmonton. They came real close towards the end to scoring that tying goal, but they just couldn't make it back. Ended up losing in regulation to Edmonton 3-2. So that puts Carolina in a bit of a hole already. They're still looking for their first win of the year. They've got a loss and 2 overtime losses on the year. So they have a couple of points to show for it, but it's just something that, Carolina's going through the growing pains that a young team does, and they're looking for that first win still, and they'll get their shot here in a couple of days. They're on a long road trip to start the year. They don't play their home opener until the 28th of October because the State Fair is here in Carolina this time of year, and that State Fair is so big that all the parking lots that surround PNC Arena, where the Hurricanes play their games, all the parking lots are needed for the fair. So to throw any kind of big event in with all of that traffic would make it practically impossible to get in and out of there. It'd just be too much traffic for that part of town. So the Carolina Hurricanes every year do play a long road trip to start the year. They usually get in 1 or 2 games at home before they go out on the road But this year with the World Cup, the regular season didn't start until the fair had started. So they're starting the year with a long road trip, and they'll be struggling for a while. So hopefully they'll get things turned around and figure out how to win here pretty quick, because they don't want to fall too far behind again this year. That's something that they've done for the last several years now. So they need to shore things up. So okay, with that concludes all the games, and well, I'm at work, so I don't have time to do any more commentary, so we'll go ahead and end it here, and we'll pick things up tomorrow. So until then, see ya.